Hi everyone, it's Bug Day today at Drawing Club. Today we're going to draw Herman the Worm. So this is Herman the Worm. And to draw Herman you will need a pencil, an eraser, a pencil sharpener, and a black marker or a black pencil crayon to outline him at the end. And maybe some color pencils or some markers to color him too. Okay, but as usual, I'm going to use my gray marker to draw him just so you can see what I'm doing. So Herman is a worm, so he's going to have a lot of long kind of squiggly lines in him. But I think we'll start by drawing his head. So I'm going to just make a line going up. It's almost like drawing one of those long balloons that you see sometimes. Just like that. And that's going to be his head. Now, there's a part underneath the worm's head, which is a kind of a band that goes around the worm. And I'm just going to draw a curved line like this, and then a little line there, and a little line there, and then a longer line going down, and another one following on the other side like this, and then one more curving around like that to make that band. And now I'm going to draw a really long wiggly line to show all along the back of Herman. It's going to go up and down and up again a little bit at the back. And then it's going to curve around and follow the same shape all the way back to here. So curving around and following that shape again. And back down. Just like that. Now, in our drawing, Herman has two big eyes. Now, we're kind of cheating because really an earthworm doesn't have big eyes like this. We'll talk a little bit more at the end of the video about earthworm parts. But for this, to make him more cute, we're going to give him these big round eyes, two big circles. And like we often do in our drawing club videos, we're going to put some light shining in his eyes. And this is important. Today, we're going to do one extra thing. We usually put these two circles of light into these big eyes, and we're going to do them like we usually do. So there's a big circle and a little circle. But I'm going to add an extra piece of light to the eyes today because in the song about Herman, quite a few sad things happen to Herman. And so one of the sad things that happens is that his girlfriend, that he thinks is a worm like him, she turns out to be a caterpillar and she turns into a butterfly and flies away. And so by putting this kind of light along the bottom of his eyes, it makes it look a little bit more like he's sad or maybe he's about to cry. So, and we're going to give him a little down-turning mouth because this is a sad part of the song when he's lost his girlfriend. We're going to also put some bands around the worm. Worms have these rings or bands around them. So I'm just going to make a curving line going around, connecting the top and the bottom of the worm. And we'll just space them out about equal and just make a bunch of curving lines. If we curve the lines like this, it makes the worm seem a little bit more round. If we made them straight lines, he wouldn't seem rounded. But by making them curved like this, it makes him seem like he's round, which worms really are. There we go. And don't forget, if I'm drawing too fast, you can always pause the video and slow me down. Okay. And that's really all the parts we have for Herman the Worm. But I decided to put his girlfriend that turned into a butterfly in the drawing too. So to draw her, I'm just going to draw 3 different sized circles. One for her head, one for the middle part of her body, and she is an insect, so this part is called the abdomen. We talked about this when we drew the bee. And then she has one longer part. Oh, you know what? And I made the same mistake again. That middle part is not called the abdomen, it's called the thorax. And this bottom part is called the abdomen. So there we go. We have her head, her thorax, and her abdomen. Okay. And she's a butterfly, which means she has long antennae coming out of her head. So 2 long lines like this. And then to make her wings, I'm going to make almost a kind of a strange heart kind of a shape. I'm going to go out and in and out again with a smaller bump and back in to make one wing. And I'll do the same on the other side. Like this. And then back in again. Okay. Now in my color version, I drew some hearts at the bottom, some broken hearts, because in the song about Herman the Worm, he has his hearts broken, and so I put 5 hearts for the 5 times his heart was broken at the bottom. So if you want to do that, you can do that too. To make the broken heart, we can just make a little heart shape like this, and then make a little lightning shape inside to show that it's broken. So I'll do one more. There's the heart, and there's the lightning shape. You don't have to add this to your drawing if you don't want. Okay, so now I'm going to put away my gray marker. This would be a pencil you would be using, and I'm going to go to my black marker to outline. And if I needed to erase any lines, I could erase them after the black marker is dry. So let's start again with those big eyes we gave Herman. Now, like I said before, actually, a real earthworm doesn't really have eyes at all. But that doesn't mean that it can't see at all. An earthworm can tell the difference between when it's light and when it's dark. They actually have the 5 senses that we humans have. So, like I said, they don't have big eyes, but they can tell the difference between light and dark. And they can also feel very well the vibrations in the earth, which means that if something scary is coming through the earth that might want to eat them, they can usually tell, and they might be able to get out of the way. And they do also have a sense of taste. So there are things that they like, and there are things they don't like the tastes of. Okay. So one interesting thing about worms that you might have already learned if you watched Miss Carmody's video where she showed her very cool little composting bin with worms in it, their worm observatory. You might have seen that worms really like to live in soil, and that they're very good for our soil. One of the things that worms do is as they move through the soil, they take it in with their mouth, and it comes through their body and out the other side. And that mixes up the soil. And it mixes the top part of the soil, the topsoil, with the soil that's deeper down. And that's very good for our soil, and it helps things to grow. And also, as they move through and as they kind of swallow that soil, and as it comes out, it puts a special chemical into the soil called nitrogen. And nitrogen is really good to help things to grow, like flowers or foods. So worms are a very important part of our ecosystem. They do important jobs to help break things down and mix the soil around. But worms have to stay wet. If a worm is out for too long out of the ground and it dries out, then it can't breathe. It needs to stay wet to breathe, because it's not like a person. A worm doesn't breathe in through its mouth. It breathes right through its skin. And so that skin has to stay wet to help the worm breathe. There we go. Those are all of his rings. And we'll do the butterfly next. Let's see if I can remember this again. That's the head, this is the thorax, and this is the abdomen. One interesting thing too is that when I was a kid, I often saw worms coming out of the ground when it rained. And I used to think, oh, that must be because they don't like it to be too wet. Maybe it's dangerous for them underground if the ground fills up with water. But I found out recently that's not why they come out. They hear the sound of the rain hitting the ground, those vibrations, and it makes them come up because actually they like it when it's wet. It helps them to move around more easily. So that's why they can move. Normally, they couldn't move on pavement or on the road because it's too dry. But when it rains, they can it gives them a chance to really go some places and see the world. Now, one of the things I love about Herman is that he just never gives up. Even though a lot of sad things happen to him in the song, and the song says, he had his hearts broken. And that's another interesting thing. Worms do have more than one heart. Some worms have 2 hearts. Some worms have as many as 10 hearts. So even though he had his hearts broken because some sad things happened to him, Herman never gave up. He kept going. He kept trying. And I think that's a great message. We should always keep going. We should never give up if things are hard. I think I'm just going to do a little more. I'm going to put some black into his eyes here. Just like this. But one important thing I always like to think, because I really am interested in insects and bugs, is that, we should always be kind to them if we can, because they actually do really have feelings too. Of course, in the song, Herman has feelings, and his feelings get hurt. But like I said, insects do have real feelings. They have, they have a sense of smell, a sense of taste, a sense of touch. They can hear, and they can see. And so we should treat them with kindness and respect if we can. There we go. All right, that is Herman. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the song about Herman on Miss Carmody's YouTube, you can hear that song, and it is great. All right, thanks so much for coming this week. Oh, I'll bring back the color one just one time so you can see it again. So I colored Herman kind of worm colors, light sort of pinks, and I gave him blue eyes because they're reflecting the light out of the sky. And I colored the hearts at the bottom red. I colored the grass green, different colors of green and some yellow, and a little bit of purple to show the shadow under his body there. And then I colored the girlfriend he used to have before she changed into that butterfly, kind of pink on her wings, and I gave her some blue and maybe a bit of purple there in her body. But of course, like I always say, you can color your worm any color you want. All right. Thanks so much. I can't wait to see you guys again for another drawing club.